Today, you're going to meet the company that is ranked as the #1 TikTok shop for freeze-dried candy. The company is Candeeze. It's grown to be one of the fastest growing freeze-dried candy businesses in the entire country due to the skills and expertise of social media ran by Dayne Hepner and his wife, who founded this several years ago. Now, they've grown exponentially the past couple of years and have really fine-tuned the different types of candies that they offer their customers on TikTok shop as well as their website. If you're someone who loves entrepreneurship, is looking into freeze drying, or starting a freeze drying business, man, this interview is for you because we covered a lot of different topics in this interview that get asked a lot amongst people looking at freeze drying and starting a freeze drying business, from packaging to what type of machines to buy, things about social media. How can you get started? What are the best tips and tricks, especially coming from someone who is experienced in growing and brand on social media? Man, this interview is going to be great for you to get inspired to start a freeze drying business. I encourage you to watch and listen to this entire video, but I know your time is valuable, so I've included timestamps below in the video description with different topics that I covered throughout the interview. And if you're interested in freeze drying or starting a freeze drying business, this is what this channel is all about. This interview is part of my Freeze Drying Entrepreneur podcast, where I'm featuring entrepreneurs all over the country. Hit the subscribe bell if you want to be following this type of channel and this content. Let's get to the interview and talk to Dayne, the owner of Candeeze, who's ranked as the #1 TikTok shop for freeze-dried candy. So Dayne, can you introduce yourself? What's your company? Who are you? Who do you run it with? Where are you located?
Yeah, so my name is Dayne Hepner, located in Greenville, South Carolina. I own and run a freeze-dried candy company called Candeeze. We're the #1 freeze-dried candy company on TikTok shop right now. Just trying to figure out how to continue to grow that, continue to expand, and we've had a huge focus on TikTok since launching. It's been a crazy, wild, but also fun one. It was about 3 years ago, my wife and I were like, all right, we want to start a business. We want to do something for ourselves. We ended up settling on 3 ideas. It was slime, it was freeze-dried candy, and it was importing like foreign snacks, because I grew up overseas. I'm used to eating a lot of snacks that aren't in America. I'm like, overseas is a lot of good snacks, but I had some issues with importing laws. Slime, I wasn't super passionate about it, and I'm like a huge candy guy, so I'm like, you know what, let's try this freeze-dried candy thing. I ended up selling a YouTube channel that I had been working to build since I was like 12, and then used all that money to start up Candeeze. I basically bought one freeze dryer and was operating under cottage food for a little bit, and quickly outgrew that within the first 3 weeks, and had to get a space, and we can dive into that, but it was crazy, just the demand that people had for this candy.
Also, I wanted to talk a little bit about your growth, because it's really been phenomenal. You and I talked on the phone back in early 2023, and then all of a sudden I've just seen you just boom because of your expertise and knowledge on TikTok, and we'll get into that. But give us an idea of where you started. Maybe just paint a picture for us of I was starting kind of similar to other people starting a freeze-dried candy business, and where you are today in terms of the operation, the scale of employees, facilities, number of freeze dryers. What does all that look like today? So start with the first of the beginning, and then go up to the paint a picture for us for right now.
Yeah. Okay. So starting with one, the biggest thing I had to do was start. I heard a quote the other day that basically said, the place where you find billion-dollar ideas is in the graveyard. Just because so many people have all these crazy ideas and great ideas, and they never do them. And that was my problem. It took me about a year and a half to launch Candeeze. I wanted everything to be right. I wanted our bags to be right. I wanted our logo to be right. I wanted to have good candy that was the best. Everything had to be perfect. I'm a perfectionist. But in the first week of launching, everything was a mess. The bags were bad. The logo had issues. Everything was going wrong. But the biggest thing I learned through that was all right, Dayne, what you got to do is you got to start it. You got to start, and then you can figure out how to fix it from there. And so once I started, I just from there we haven't stopped. It's all right, if it doesn't work, let's try something new, and let's just keep fixing it to where we can grow it into a really cool company, versus trying to make sure everything is perfect about every little detail, so that we can grow it into a really cool company.
Tell me kind of your first freeze dryer purchase, and kind of how many you had until you had to actually have your own place.
Yeah, back then Harvest Right is who we used, and it was a little more expensive to buy the freeze dryers because they were more newer. It was a little over $5,000 for a large, and we got ourselves a large. We got all the permits to operate under cottage food for in state. And basically, we sold cottage food for the first 2 weeks and just outsold everything. Literally, the first day of like getting orders, we had to go get another freeze dryer. So we had two, but it only lasted about 2 weeks in our space because like we realized how big the potential was just outside the state lines and like across the world. So we got a small little commercial kitchen, like FDA space, and was literally like a small room, and we had to renovate it and put all of our money we had made into like making this thing food grade. And so from there, we put our two freeze dryers in there and then got a few more, and it's just been scaling, and we outgrew that space like 6 months later, and now we have a bigger one by the grace of God.
And so you have a lot of freeze dryers, you know, so you started with Harvest Right.
Yeah.
You know, I've noticed in some of your TikTok videos where you show kind of, you know, hey, we started this candy business, and you kind of show this is like our operation. You actually have some different machines that are not even freeze dryers that help you make the candy. Can you talk a little bit about what type of equipment you have?
Sure. So Harvest Light's great. The problem is, if for those that don't know how to freeze drying works, basically, essentially, you're melting down the candy a good bit. You're heating the trays, and the candy's getting softer, and then you're pulling all the air, all the oxygen. It's basically like a vacuum chamber. So the problem is the Harvest Right trays don't go above 150 degrees. So when you have a candy like lemon heads and the shell is like super hard, it's hard to get those to puff without putting your trays in the oven first. The problem is if you put your trays in the oven first, then put it in the freeze dryer, not only are you going to void the warranty, but you'll ruin the freeze dryer. So, and it takes a lot more time. So we're like, all right, we got to find some sort of system to where we can use our freeze dryers, but also have a higher heat that are applied to them. So we basically daisy chained some vacuum ovens, and we used the freeze dryers as a cold trap. And essentially, we melt down the candy way hotter than 150 degrees for things like red hots, for like lemon heads, for those harder candies that most people can't get to freeze dry. And then the freeze dryer kicks in and pulls all the moisture. Like the same vacuum pump pulls all the oxygen and moisture, whatever, vacuum chambers the candy, so it gets all crispy and crunchy and puffy.
Okay, so for those hard candies, like a lot of people, you know, I know the evolution because I've been in business since 2020, so I know what you're talking about. But for people who are just starting out, you know, there's certain candies that do well in freeze dryers. That's why it's called freeze dried candy. But if you're looking at actual like popped candy, textured candy, yeah, the Skittles, but people are now trying to figure out like how do I do more candies like the lemon heads? And so you're saying that you take a vacuum oven and then you use the vacuum pump. Is it attached to your vacuum oven, or you're transferring the melted candies kind of, or softened up candies from the oven back to the freeze dryer?
No, it's attached. But we also have to have a cold trap, so we attach it from both sides. It's super complicated, but the pump is attached to a line that's attached to the freeze dryer, and both of those are attached to the vacuum oven.
Okay, so you've basically made your own candy popping
Yeah,
machine in combination between a freeze dryer that has the vacuum, the cold trap, but also a vacuum oven.
exactly.
Brilliant. So you're an engineer now, not
Well,
just a freeze
hey,
dried
hey,
candy.
my dad's the engineer. I'm like, Dad, how do we do this? And he sat down and helped me figure it out. I can't take the
All
credit
right.
for that one.
Now you got to make a machine, man, and you'll be making tons of money, right? Tell us a little bit about the operation now too. So you've got this figured out now through your father who
Mhm.
engineered both of these things. So how big of this facility do you have? How many employees? What is Candeeze? What are you proud of? Like, how big is it?
Yeah, we're at 28 employees right now, which is crazy. um, I hired on my parents full time. So my dad's, I'm the CEO. My dad's our COO. He's our chief operating officer. He essentially makes sure all the candy's getting produced. And essentially what we did very early on is we divided into two divisions. We divided it into the production division, and we divided it into the social media division. And that's me. I'm the guy that's the social media guy. I'm the guy that makes sure all the candy gets sold, and I have a team that I've hired that works for me to make the content, to do the live streams, to all these things. And then my dad, he has a team that works under him where he makes sure we produce. So if I'm making his life miserable by lots of orders and he's making my life miserable by lots of demand, then we're doing good. The goal is to both be doing good on our parts.
Talking a little bit about the production. I know your father's not on the call, but you obviously are very intertwined with the company as the CEO. So you've been in business for several years. You've seen a lot of growth.
Yeah.
You've also tried a lot of different candies. How did you determine what candies you were going to go for at full throttle? You know that you could scale these versus the ones that you started with, and it wasn't something that you could really scale very quickly.
Sourcing is a big aspect. Sourcing is hard. It's hard to source candy at a huge volume. That was a huge pain point we encountered. But we've been able to partner up with some cool companies that are able to source us pretty much anything we need now. So the problem is like making sure the customers like what we are producing. So we basically take polls and we ask the consumers, hey, what do you want? Do you want Red Hots this week? And they're like, yeah. Or do you want etc. Like I just say Red Hots because that's what we're launching this week, and people are excited about that. So just trying to figure out what people want and what they'll buy. And we've noticed the biggest selling point for direct-to-consumer, like direct-to-consumer via online mail order, has been bundles. People love a bundle. People love to get like a box with a bunch of different types of candy in there, and like it helps minimize costs with shipping and everything. Versus like on the retail side of things, people are fine with just picking up a bag of the ones they think are most interesting.
So Dayne, speaking on the production side, you have all this product that you're producing, all these candies that you're focusing on. And when you have thousands of people saying, I want Red Hots, how are you packaging those efficiently? Are you using any type of automation, or are you packaging things by hand? What does an actual like very large freeze-dried candy company like yourself doing when you're trying to make thousands of bags?
Yeah, I mean, we have hoppers and all these crazy gizmos and gadgets. I can take you a step back. So, first time when you order a freeze fry, you get this little thing, and it's like a little clamp, and you close it to seal your bags. And I think we went through like 8 of those in the first like 3 weeks. Like just broken, fixed, broken. We're like, okay, we need something better. So one of our big investments was we got a commercial sealer. So basically we line the bags up on this conveyor belt. We just go boom, 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 and then it goes through and seals them all and dumps them into a bucket. And like that's how we can get clean sealed bags that are fresh till 2029 on there. And so that's like, well, 2029 is like, it's hard to say because like freeze-dried candy doesn't go bad, but you're supposed to put an expiration date, and that's as long as we've been able to test it. Yeah, it stays fresh basically forever. Essentially, you kind of know how it is. But on the other side of things, like getting it into the bags is like, okay, so how do we make sure we can get the same amount of candy in every bag at a fast pace? Because it's not ideal to try to open up the bag and like dump it and weigh it every time. It just takes time. It's more cost and labor. So essentially what we did was we got a hopper, and we have a scale attached to the hopper. So it basically drops candy down to the scale, weighs it, and then vibrates it into the bag. So essentially you hook the bag on the bottom and it fills, move. So we have someone that is just filling the bag, and then another person that's sealing and sealing the bag. So there's a bunch of different things we've like worked to implement and like making sure our packing and production speed's faster. But I mean, in the grand scheme of things, producing lots of freeze-dried candy is a pain. It's a pain in the butt, to be honest.
And also back to kind of the candies that you are producing, are most of these like non-wrapper related candies?
Yeah, drop candies are easy. My dad's like, all right, Dayne, let's get some drop candies. And I'm like, nah, let's get some Jolly Ranchers. Let's get some Bit of Honeys. Let's get all this other candy that requires a lot more work. Some Airheads. It comes down to like what the people want. If they really want unwrapped candies, it's fine. But when we have to go out and unwrap tons and tons of Starburst, it's like it does take way more time, so we can produce way fewer than if we were to do tons and tons of wild berry crunches. You know what I mean? So it's a trade-off. It's like, is it going to be worth the extra time that we put into it?
Let's talk about packaging. When we first talked, you were using what I use today in my business, which is a craft food bag, keeps more dry goods, very much similar to what you have today, but it's much more craft oriented. But people are using deli containers. People are having bags that don't have any windows. Why have you stuck with your particular bag right now, and do you plan to continue with that?
We had issues with craft bags and a lot of our candy not lasting. I'm gonna show you something cool. This is this right here is our first ever bag of candies we ever produced. This is it, and it melted. But first ever bag of candy we ever produced. We were doing our own labels. We were cutting them. We were sticking them. You can see the lines aren't even super straight. But first bag of candy ever off the production line that me and my wife ever produced, and that's the problem we were encountering right there. It's like when anything, this was like a week and a half later, when anything heat oriented popped up, when anything like revolving a longer shelf life popped up, candy it'd just be gone. It was like, all right, I'm out. I'm gonna rehydrate. And even with oxygen absorbers, we had some trouble, and also costs. Like this and a bunch of oxygen absorbers is way more expensive than something like this. And we designed our own bags. These are our custom bags that we made, and they stay fresh at bare minimum 2029. So it's like we can make something, and if we do sell it, like we just introduce wholesale. So like let's say we have a huge wholesale order. If for some reason a box gets lost in the back, I know they'd sell, so that's not the problem. If it gets lost in the back, I'm just kidding. But if it gets lost in the back, it's like, okay, 5 years later, you'll still be good to eat this. So it was a big, huge turning point for us with like having bags that have a good shelf life. When we send it to Texas, the heat isn't going to absolutely disintegrate it. So it was a move that we made, and we love these bags. They've been nothing but good to us.
Yeah, and candy is such a consumable product too. I mean, people are going to eat it, but people who are going to buy if you're going to do wholesale, just like you're introducing, and a lot of other candy producers, those clients, those vendors, those distributors are going to want to know that, hey, if we happen to have these for a year because we're going to buy at scale and at volume with you, can we pull out something that's 6 months old and it still be fresh and still be the great product? That's awesome.
For the most part, if anyone's making straight to order, it's not a big deal. But like even for farmers market people, if you're going to a farmers market or a trade show and you plan to have leftover inventory, like how long is inventory going to last you? And if it's not going to last you months, then in my opinion, don't worry about it. But if you want long shelf life, I think you have to figure out like how to best preserve the candy. And that's kind of the step we took.
Now, freeze-dried candy has been going on for quite a while, and people have said that, hey, it originated back in 2016, 2018, but I feel like really it catapulted itself right around the pandemic, 2021, 22, even today, right? But so as we evolve into a lot of people getting into the freeze-dried candy space, have you been experimenting with your own candy design to kind of freeze dry? And if you're not willing to reveal what that is, just talk about maybe your process and what you're trying to have Candeeze as your company become.
We've been looking into creating our own specific Candeeze candy. That's something we'd love to do. And if anyone watching wants to point us in the right direction on how to do that, let us know. But I mean, it's been on the back burner. We'd love to do that, but it's not our main focus right now. What we've been focused on right now is optimizing a system so where we can make the most competitive priced products for wholesale, even maintaining pretty good margins. I mean, we can sell this for about $2 to wholesale. And so, our goal is to like have a bunch of options for wholesale. That's what we've been focused on this quarter, and like how we can best offer that for the best possible price. And it's been fun. It's been a challenge, like optimizing production to where you can make thousands and thousands and thousands. Like I think we're at like 19,000 units a week right now. And like being able to like create that many units and also still maintain the margins of keeping wholesale as cheap as we can has been hard. But I mean, if we sell this at $2, people have no problem turning around and selling it at $5. So it's like 60, 70, 60% margins for people that are buying. So it's been really cool to see where that's gone. Now it's just a matter of like, all right, how many clients can we find and how big do we need to scale?
You know, what seems to be the biggest challenge in freeze drying candy and having a freeze dried candy business? And how have you found ways to overcome them?
At the start, oh my goodness. The start was so hard to figure out the food regulations and laws and FDA. Like, no one will help you. Like, no one will help me figure out how to like make sure I'm doing it legally. You would think like people would be like, yeah, this is how you legally run a candy company. No one would help me. So it was so hard to try to go above reproach and make sure I had the proper licensing and the registration and the permits and FDA and DUNS numbers and yada, yada, yada. But we figured it out. And that was a huge like stepping stone. And once we figured that out, we could sell via mail order anywhere in the country. And that basically like unlocked a whole new world of opportunity.
Yeah. And so you see that it was a big challenge, but you overcame it. Now that you're in that state, looking back at it, are you saying that's a real big barrier to entry for anybody coming into this space, or do you feel like as more and more people get into it in the FDA and go through those things, is the FDA actually going to be easier to work with? Are you going to find more solutions and more people to help you out to try to get there?
If I understood your question correctly, looking back, it was definitely a huge hurdle and it's a huge entry point for a lot of people. I mean, if I wasn't forced to move in that direction, like if Candeeze wasn't the way it is and I just wanted to start going big via like huge scale, like all over the country, and that's just my dream or my goal, I don't know if I would have done it. I don't know if I would have made it happen. But the fact that I was forced to like, if I want to keep growing this company, I have to do that. That was more like my hand was forced that I had to figure it out. And I feel like when you have to figure something out, you figure it out. But I do wish there were more resources on how to go about that. That's one of the reasons I was following you, is like I was watching all your videos. I had notifications on. Every time you watched the video, I'd watch it and I'd ask like 5 questions in the comments. I'm like, I got to learn everything I can from someone that knows what they're talking about. And that has changed a lot with Facebook groups and other aspects like that. But even still, getting into like the nitty gritty of like the law and the aspects involved in like that, it's kind of a nightmare.
Another challenge that I think people find is coming up with a name for their company, but also something that is unique that they can build a brand to your type of level. So walk us through a little bit of your process for coming up with Candeeze, and how are you protecting it? How are you building the brand so that it's different from other people?
I'm going to show you guys. This was all the different trials we went through. We started with like some logos. Like I'll just take you through some of the logos we went through, like all the different candies. This was one of our first ones that we really liked. My wife made Candeeze. This was one we almost settled on, more like a frozen. And we just kept going and going and going until eventually we settled in on one. This was one that we almost did, and we're like, that guy's not cute enough. He's not quite cute enough. And then we're like this one, and then like, that guy's also not quite there. And then we went this one, and we're like, okay, there's no personality there. We needed to have some personality. And then we ended up settling in on our current logo now, which awesome. Of course, Candeeze, freeze-dried candy. The way we came up with that name is a combination of 2 things. The first being, I really love combining names. So Candy Freeze, boom, Candeeze. I took the FR off freeze and put the beginning of candy on it. And then I was like, Candeeze. And I was like, yo buddies, do you like candies? And all of them were like, Candeeze, not it doesn't matter. It's some Gen Z joke that they like to make that's pretty inappropriate, but it was a trend with Candeeze, Deez, or Deez, whatever. But I was like, okay, so if that's what everyone thinks of when I go ahead and tell them my candy brand, that means they're not going to forget it. So, and also it's going to bait tons and tons of comments when I post a video. Of course, I post the first video. There's thousands of comments that are like, "Candy's not," and I was like, "Yeah, it worked," because that boosted our engagement. But the combination of both of those things is the reason we ended up settling on Candeeze. We're thinking about dropping the freeze-dried candy aspect and kind of expanding more into like still freeze-dried candy, but like not niching ourselves as much. So it's something we're thinking about.
The freeze-dried candy, I think it's always going to be, it's going to be kind of Kleenex and tissue. I think the freeze-dried candy is just, that's how people have described it. But now that we're entering probably different ways to just have a vacuum in a cold, cold spot, but also having something to warm it, it's not necessarily freeze dried. It's just like a
pop. This isn't freeze dried.
Right. It's a popped candy. So Dayne, elephant in the room. You've got this silly little mic on your hat. And I told you to put this on for the interview because this is Dayne. Yeah, this is his trademark look, because if you go to his TikTok account, Candeeze Co., I mean, he's got that on all the time. His workers who are on his TikTok live shop, things like that, they're always having this like mic, which is a wireless mic on there. So I love it. So let's talk about TikTok now. You and your wife, very talented in TikTok platform. You don't only kind of do sales for your company, but you've done things where you make money as influencers. Do you feel that this has been your competitive advantage and allowed you to grow past your competition, but also stay ahead of them?
Yeah, I mean, all respect to competition. There's some people out there doing great things, but in the grand scheme of things, like my wife and I, like we've been running an agency, creating ads for like 2.5, 3 years. We worked with like 2,000 brands, not like in a flexing way, but like big brands like Walmart, like Adobe, just literally it felt like anyone we wanted to work with at one point we could. And so like we were making all these videos and like all these ads and like creating, and it was fun. An agency basically. And TikTok, when you were backed by TikTok, they just send clients your way. But the problem with that was we were just tired of like making videos for other companies. It's exhausting when they're making like 4, 5, 6 videos a day for other companies. We're like, all right, we got to do this for ourselves. And we did. We launched our own company, Candeeze, and we used all the knowledge we had from making all these videos and all these ads and all these things for other companies to launch our own organically, which was crazy. My goal was organically. And organically, our first video, it's at 33 million views by the grace of God. So it is definitely an advantage. That's like a gift that the Lord gave both of us, is just like being able to create good content for social media. But I mean, even without that ability, I think anyone can find ways to succeed in the business, because like there's so many aspects that we're not capitalizing on that other people are.
Dayne, I want to ask you if you could tell the audience here exactly what you told me about a good TikTok strategy for an organic post. I don't know if you remember that. You told me that video that has 33 million, you said it had this particular structure for hitting kind of the social media algorithms of what people like, because they stay actually on the video if you have these components. Can you tell us what that structure is?
I mean, people love like just stories about like the small business journey. That was what that was. If you can pull on someone's heartstrings, not in a manipulative way, but by genuinely telling a story, that's a video that can pop off. And like that's what happened is we were just straight up honest. We're like told the story, the ins and outs, the ups and downs, the bad parts and the good parts of what it was like having run our company thus far. And it kind of started with my wife when I started a small business, kind of showed them what the small business was. I even gave them an example of me munching on the candy, showing them why they should buy into our small business. Kind of gave them more info on like how we do everything, and then ended it off with like, hey, if you want to support us, we had 10 orders so far. If you want to support us and we'd love your support, you can go ahead and grab some. And that structure of like just appealing to the mass demographic and like telling the small business story is like so powerful. Because I mean, to be honest, if I see a small business story, I'm gonna buy in. I want to hear their story. I want to support them. And it's not like you're manipulating anyone. It's just simply like, it's something cool about running a small business is like you do have a story and people love hearing that. So don't shy away from it, and especially when crap hits the fan, don't shy away from sharing that, because people really love to hear the struggles, not just the good and highlights.
Yeah. So if someone's starting out on TikTok, what's the difference in the strategy of posting something that's going to be organic and then something that's going to be more salesy? Because you do a lot of sales posts, but you also do organic posts. So what's the difference in those two strategies?
It just depends. If you're going to be running ads, that's like all ROAS. But like specifically focus on like making posts. Think about your goal. Is your goal to get a ton of orders, to get a ton of followers, to get a ton of views? Think about your goal, because if you don't have a good sales pitch in there, then it's going to be hard to get a bunch of orders. Like one of my videos got, I think, 40. Let's see, this Air Crunch video. It was an entertainment style video. It got like 41.9 million views. And like I didn't have a hard sales pitch in there, and it didn't get many sales at all. Like I've had videos with 1 million views that I got more sales than that 41.9 million view video. It's simply because the focus wasn't to hard sell someone. It was literally to entertain them. And when you do focus on that, you can reach a much larger demographic, because not everyone likes to be kind of sold to. But it just kind of depends on your focus. So if you figure out what your focus is, then you can grow. But in the grand scheme of things, that 41.9 million view video might not have got a lot of sales, but it got a lot of eyes, a lot of attention, a lot of followers, which then resulted in a lot of sales. So it's just it's all strategy. It's social media strategy.
You're really successful on TikTok Shop. You sell a lot of product, but for someone just starting out who wants to sell in the middle of Indiana, and I just want to start selling on TikTok because this is a way for me to start just making some sales, maybe my first $100. What's 3 different pieces of advice you'd have for starting on TikTok?
Yeah, as long as you have an LLC and you have a registered commercial space with an FDA number, you can sell on TikTok Shop. And that's the 2 big barriers of entry. But if you do have that already, then there's so many ways you can generate income on TikTok Shop. Whether it be through short form. Like, here's the deal. If you can make good videos and you post a video a day, every day for 3 months, your life and your freeze-drying candy company is going to be drastically different than it was before. It's all about consistency. If you go live 2 hours a day, every day for a month, it's going to pick up. It's going to pick sales. So like there's so many like nitty gritty things you can dive into. Like, okay, for example, if you're live streaming, you want to target a certain show GPM and like all this, that, the other. We can get into the technical aspects. But I mean, just for a newbie, stay consistent and think about how you can best elevate your live streams, best elevate your content. And like, don't be stressed about it not being perfect. Like, you're dealing with a lot of competition, and if yours isn't the best, that's fine. Just figure out how you can continue to grow, continue to make better content and better live streams.
Can someone who has a home-based freeze-dried business, can they sell on TikTok Shop in any fashion?
No, sadly. Just restriction products. You need some sort of verified and FDA, similar to Amazon. Like, you can't sell on Amazon unless you have the same thing. They're kind of strict about that. And if you do, you get violations. If you don't have the proper permits, and violations will basically tank your traffic. It literally, they will deboost you and deboost your traffic. A lot of people say the word blacklisted, but the actual term that TikTok uses is called deboosting.
Yeah, that actually happened, I think, earlier this year. Is they updated their policies, and I don't know if you were impacted by that, but it kind of shortly shut down a lot of businesses because I think people were selling product that is processed that TikTok didn't want liability on. So were you impacted by that for a short period of time?
Last year, when they basically took all freeze-dried candy away, all candy, everything away, because a lot of people were using cottage food, and then they slowly added it back. And anyone that had the proper permits and proper numbers like FDA registration numbers and all that. They let them all back in. And if you do have everything set up correctly and you are actually a commercial kitchen, then they won't mess with you for the most part. I get violations every now and then, but I mean, it's part of the process.
Is freeze-dried candy, is the industry too competitive now? Is it a fad? How do you feel about people getting into the industry and where it's headed?
It is competitive, a lot more than before. It's a lot of copycats out there that'll just, whatever you do, they'll just copy it. That's part of it. I guess it's a show tell that you're doing a good job at what you're doing. If you have a plan of attack, yes, go for it. But if you're just like, let me just like make candy and see where it goes, I would say plan out a strategy on what you plan to focus on. Because just like any industry, there's always space for a new competitor. It's just a matter of if you can find a good way to attack it. Because, I mean, it's not like it was 3 years ago. 3 years ago, no one had tried freeze-dried candy and everyone wanted to try it. Nowadays, if you bring up freeze-dried candy in the topic, people have pretty much tried it. So you're kind of targeting repeat buyers and people that have already tried it once. So it's not like a new thing as much as it was before. And so as long as you have a plan of attack and like what audience you plan to tackle and how you plan to do it, there's always space.
What does the brand represent 5 years from now?
Yeah, of course. So my main goal right now is to continue to grow the company and hire the right people to where it can run itself. If I can be the overseer and make sure everything's running correctly without having to work 12, 15-hour days every single day, that would be ideal. So basically right now, my main focus on the business side of things is making sure I have the right people that can take initiative and do the right things to help grow the company without me having to carry all the pressure on my shoulders. And I feel like once I can get to a company that can run itself essentially, of course with oversight, then I have something that's actually valuable and actually worth something. But at the moment, it's kind of like me with something on my back and just kind of dragging it.
I think you're in a very steep growth curve right now, and so you're starting to put all the puzzle pieces together to have it run for you. And it sounds like you've got family helping you. You've also got some staff though that are really picking up the social media side too.
We have like a full-time content creator, 4 full-time live streamers. It's cool to see that selling the candy on direct to consumer is it's not on me anymore. So that's good. Now it's just like the wholesale side of things and making sure the production side can be generating revenue versus just the social media side.
Also, you can sell Candeeze candy on TikTok if you want to through their affiliate program, right?
Anyone can. Yeah, if they're involved in the TikTok shop affiliate program, we offer 15-20% commission. So super competitive. So if someone buys your product, we recommend selling bundles because that's what people love the most. So it's 7 different bags, and you can get some good money. I just had a lady the other day. I won't say her name, but she goes by Strength on TikTok. She's a single mom, struggling with finances. Hopped on live stream, and in a weekend, she sold $3,000 worth of candies. And I'm like, let's go. That's awesome. I'm so happy for you. And
that's fire, man.
Yeah, it's fun for her because, I mean, she just ordered a box because she loved us and she started live streaming and selling it. And it blew up and lots of people loved her content. She figured out how to live sell. It's proof that anyone can do it. She literally had a phone like this with a few bags, just kind of telling people about it for 2 hours a day for a couple of days, and it's crazy to see how anyone can make it happen. So that was literally just this weekend. So if you're out there and you want to live stream candies, go for it. And even if that's not for you, whatever it is that you want to do, just go for it and see where it goes.
Dayne, it's been awesome talking to you. Your growth and your knowledge of this industry has been phenomenal to watch and learn from. And I just hope all the best for you, and congratulations on your kid to come here very soon. And yeah, thanks a lot for joining me on this podcast. And we'll hopefully be talking with you soon on part 2.
That sounds like a plan. Part 2, you got to come see our facility.
Deal.
Awesome. Good to see you guys.
All right.